For over 10 years, I've had a burning zeal to unleash and unveil the traps of the enemy over our generation through the media and through the visuals. I've had a very good foundation, fortunately, built into me as my father revealed to me his revelations, also being a screenplay writer and movie director, which was very fortunate for me. And I see God's deliberate plans in my life because of this. And I want to share with you all that is crucial and important for you to know in order to stand guard over yourself and over your family and stand firm in this time when obviously there's much corruption that is already creeping in to our faithful Christian homes. Holy Spirit is in the business of giving us, you, me, revelations. But do we search them out? Are we aware that we're getting these revelations? Do we go deeper into them? Even if it goes against our comfort or anything that we thought was truth? Are we able to admit that maybe we were wrong, that maybe we didn't quite understand things the way they were? That's the question we should be asking. Now, before I start, I have to say, and I have to warn, that this video is not for everyone, even though it could and would help anyone. But not everyone may agree or fully grasp the importance of this, because this will go against things that you may cherish and hold deeply. This is a time of raising up of the sons of God, and I'm not going to go too deep into that because that is just a whole other topic. But it's important to mention because the sons of God are those who are willing to stand against the waves of culture, not only in the face of the obvious evils and the corruption and chaos that the world is trying to move towards, that we're aware of, but also in the face of things that are normal, that appear harmless, but are accepted in our society and in our culture. This is something that has been also burning in my heart for over 15 years, and it's still burning as I continue to see the amazing advancements in the movement of media and entertainment, and really how it's influencing the church just as much as it's shaping our society. So, how do we stand firm? Okay, I'm going to talk about something here. I want to talk about keeping our eyes, which are gateways to our souls and spirits, clean and pure, and not polluted with the chaotic imagery that is enforced on us and on our children. Yes, obviously that means not engaging in what we call obvious evils, but did you know that you, even as a conservative Christ follower, have allowed the imagery of the enemy, which is also his gate of entry, into your home or your household? And that might seem kind of shocking, but we have to know what his imagery is. Of course, we can live our whole life serving and loving the Lord and still carrying his imagery in our everyday life without even knowing it. And it might apparently or appear to not have an effect on us. But this is a time when the sons of God, that's you, need to have a strong stand, because we have a higher calling and responsibility. And this requires a higher discernment, more wisdom and understanding. And I'm not talking about discerning a spirit in a room or that's on a person, or discerning a spiritual atmosphere, because you should already be functioning in that. And if you're not, or if you're not sure if you are, I'll tell you that you probably are, but you're not fully aware of it, and you're just not labeling what you're discerning or what you're experiencing. Let me warn you that what I want to share is not intended to offend, but I have learned throughout the years that saying or unveiling a truth about something that is already ingrained in an individual usually could cause some emotional or spiritual hostility towards that truth. Let me explain this point before I go on. Say we have a child that's raised from infancy in an environment or a family that almost daily endorse that, say, apples are awful, they're poisonous and they're bitter, and then not after long, even after just a few years, 10 years say, trying to explain the nutritional benefits of an apple may be difficult to comprehend. It'll be rejected. There is a deeply ingrained rejection. So to be able to go deeper into grasping God's truths and new revelations requires that we admit to ourselves and make a conscious decision that we may have been wrong all along, or we might not have fully understood the picture before, or we may have been misguided. Then we are truly constantly growing. Then we're actually able to grow. I'm not talking about abandoning the foundations of your faith or riding the next wave of doctrine. There are foundations that we need to stick to, but I'm talking about being led by Holy Spirit even in areas that are too difficult to let go of. Now back to the main point of this video. The dangers lurking in our homes. And if you have children, this is more likely going to relate to you. I'll give you some examples. A Spider-Man or Ninja Turtles or Star Wars fans in your home. That's just to name a few popular ones that I can come up with or that I see when I go out. These are only examples of some of the doors. Listen, these are doors that the enemy has built and created to pollute the minds of the past and generations like us and the coming generations. These are also the imagery of the enemy, that the enemy is using to display himself, to make himself known and accepted. Yes, even the characters that you grew up loving, and this can be hard. Okay, to drive this point home and to make it as simple and quick as I possibly can for you, there is a fine line between fantasy and reality, because most of what we actually consider fantasy is in fact reality. There are three ways to discern if a created persona or a character or character type or movie series is orchestrated from the dark side. Number one, you can have extremely high discernment, which I find is lacking in the church. Number two, have spiritual sight, to be able to see. Someone who can see everything all the time will be able to see that the characters that are depicted in our media are they closely resemble those that are actually in the spiritual dimension. And number three, understanding history and background of how Satan from the very beginning has been trying to alter DNA and create his own species and to create his own kingdom. And that we can go deeper into that through Genesis 6 and the flood. Now, the best thing is to operate in a combination of all these forms of discernment. If we're not operating in one of these three forms of discernment, how can you discern if a movie you're watching or a show you're watching or if your favorite character it goes under this category or is one of those characters that are an open door to the image of the enemy? How do you know if this is an image of the enemy? Especially if the character is so good, so lovable, does good, performs things that are even Christ-like. First, we have to keep in mind that these characters are displayed as heroes, of course. And they're the ones that help. They're the ones that save. They have a mission for good, whatever the storyline might be. They may even have a weakness, so we can relate to them, so they can feel close to us. They could have a very favorable personality, so even if they do have a demonic type of character trait, that we can still like them and still love them because of their personality. Put that on an image that is not fully human, or it is a hybrid with mixed DNA, or is an extraterrestrial in some way, not fully human, not earthly. Anything that is not holy as in pure genetics, no mixed DNA, is considered corrupt. is something that God has warned that we need to stay away from. The actual act of accepting these characters are in the form of engaging, such as buying the merchandise, watching the shows, taking the role playing, dressing up as them, which is one of the most dangerous forms of engaging with these things. That is inviting these very entities. You may think it is someone's imagination. That imagination does not come from anywhere. These are inspired, created characters that do have a source of reality. That's why it is very dangerous for us and our children to be engaged in these characters and in these movies and in these shows. We need to reject them. As hard as it may be, as disconnected as it may make us seem from our society and culture, but we need to reject the enemy, not invite and accept the enemy and his plan. It's allowing you to accept. And it's a war against not just your psychology and your mind, but it's a war for your soul and against your spirit. Whether we realize it or not, we are constantly in a spiritual war. And we have to realize that not only are there demonic beings, which unfortunately I have to discuss it, though I hate mentioning them so much, but we have angelic beings. We have angels and angelic beings that I don't know what they're called, but and creatures, just beings of all different forms that are in the kingdom of heaven. And they are not usually depicted in our media. And they don't usually interact or come into our dimension to communicate with us, although there are so many exceptions to that. So we need to be aware that there is multi-dimensional level of activity going on. And this is where we need to realize that just being involved with the things that we are taking from our media is engaging us in this spiritual war that's going on around us, except that we are not helping the side that we are supposed to be on. We need to know and be aware of the traps of accepting what God has called unholy. I've just condensed probably 10 hours worth of talk into just a few minutes. But if you want to know more, please let me know, because I believe that this is a time, and we are in a time where it is very important and crucial for us to be aware more than ever before.